Hello there, I'm Ken, and you're watching Kilt Can Cook, the Scottish cooking channel that encourages young men and women to have the confidence and competence they need to conquer the kitchen. Oh, and it's a big show for you today, because it's St. Patrick's Day. Now, that means nothing to me, I'm not Irish, but the rest of the world thinks they are today, so we're going to oblige their insanity with Polish tacos. That's right, we're not doing corned beef. I don't understand why people would waste a perfectly good brisket that they could be smoking by brining it. Oh, it's such a waste of a delicious cut of meat. Anyway, when it comes to Ireland, they've got some absolutely fantastic things going for them. Like I've always said, Scotland for the liquor, Ireland for the beer. So, we're going to be doing a special salute to Ireland, not with a food, with a beverage. Oh, God bless them. I've got to say, since being here in the United States, I've come to appreciate the finer points of having a nice cold beer. I know, that might sound like sacrilege to some of you, but my goodness, it is refreshing. So, we're going to be making this fantastic dish, Polish tacos. We make a pierogi shell, and then we stuff it with all manner of delicious Polish ingredients like polska kielbasa, sauerkraut, mustard, bacon. Well, bacon's not really Polish, but it makes everything else better. Polish tacos. I love it. You're going to love it. Let's be about it, shall we? We're going to start by making our pierogi shells. We're going to add a cup and a third of flour, all-purpose if you please, a pinch of salt, which, I don't know, it's a small amount of salt. Blend those together. And now we're going to take a tablespoon and a half of butter, and we're going to melt that in about a cup, half cup of boiling water. Now, I had that on the cooker for a while, and that will just let it melt in no time at all. And we're going to blend that into our flour mixture. Nice and slowly. Or fast. It doesn't really matter now, does it? Now, I'm using a whisk. You can use a spoon. In fact, I recommend a wooden spoon for this entire dish if you've got it available. I burned my spoon a while ago and it melted, so I don't have a spoon available. But you will see me use little spatulas from time to time. Because when you use a whisk, it gets stuck like that in your hands. Take an egg, mix it up, nice and blended, and we're going to add that into our mixture also. This is going to make our dough exceedingly sticky, as eggs always do. Nice and blended. Very good. This was actually rather tough because I'd never done this before, and I'm filming my very first practice doing it. So if you see any mistakes or hesitancy, that's why, because I don't really know what I'm doing. It's always fun when that happens, isn't it? You see, if you use a whisk, you get problems like this when it gets nice and sticky. Use a wooden spoon if you've got it available. See, there's the spatula. Promise it would come into play. Now, we're going to want to start kneading this dough. Now, kneading, K-N-E-A-D, is the process of just kind of using your hands to mix the dough nice and proper and get those gluten strands to stretch out a wee bit. Gives the bread that nice, chewy... I have no idea, I'm not out and brown. Anyway, we want to knead the dough. I turned it out on the counter. That was a bad decision, because as you can see, about half of my dough gets stuck on the countertop. That didn't work. So, what I eventually wound up doing is I eventually started just plying it. Just kind of pulling it and sticking it back together and pulling it and sticking it back. It was a lot of fun. Very messy, but if you've got kids and you want them to do something with the dish, have them do this. It's a lot of fun. But this goes on for a while. This takes about 8 minutes of just doing this. I'm going to cut this because there's way too much footage of this, and it bores me. I can't imagine what it does to a lot of you. Alright, after about 8 minutes of doing this, we're going to stick it into our bowl and put some nice plastic wrap over the top of it. Try to get as much off your fingers as you can, but don't freak out about it. It's not that big of a deal. And now we're going to set this aside for about 30 minutes. While this is setting and getting bigger and all that and whatnot and so forth, we are going to, well, do nothing because I shot this out of order. Good on you, Ken. Alright, clean your countertop off. And, yeah, sprinkle your flour on the countertop. Get it nice and dry. Because flour makes it so that things that are sticky are not as sticky. Turn out your dough, any which way you can. Get it on the countertop, divide it into sixths. You're going to see me divide it into thirds here, but really you want it smaller, make it sixths. And what you're going to do is take a rolling pin, or your nearest equivalent to a rolling pin, bottle of scotch. Thank you very much. And you're going to flatten that into a roughly roundish shape. Now this is a fancy bottle of scotch. It's the Glenlivet 18 and personalised to ken the voice of the god. I got that from Ben Stevens, one of the men that I did some audiobook work for. I pinned his Amazon link down in the description below. Fantastic man. Cheers, Ben. Now you want this to be, once again, roughly roundish. This first time I put way too much effort into it. Took a plate out, and you really don't need to do that. Take your pierogi dough and stick one of your sixths into the pot of boiling water. In fact, you can do up to 2 at a time if you feel like it. After a minute of boiling, we're going to fish it out with a spatula or a slotted spoon or something to that effect. And we're going to let it rest on some paper towels and then stick it onto a pan full of hot oil. I believe this is vegetable oil, but you can use avocado oil if you like. Let it sit for honestly, until the edges start to get nice and brown. That nice golden brown, not burnt brown. And then you're going to flip it. It takes a wee bit longer than you expect it will. While this is going on, we're going to cook some bacon. If you want, you can cook your bacon while you're waiting for your dough, that 30-minute interval. That's a good time for it. Once one piece of dough is ready, put on another. Don't do too many at a time because then your oil will get colder. But we want to saute our onions in a little bit of bacon grease, just a small amount, right? And we'll let that sit for a while. They'll caramelize the longer we let them sit. As you can see, the more we use our oil, the more disgusting it gets. So you want to empty out your oil every once in a while. And once you've got enough of your pierogi shells done, you can toss on your Polish sausage to let that simmer for a wee bit. Once your onions have become nice and caramelized, oh, and look at how good that is. You can even add some to that to make it even more delicious. Beer caramelized onions, oh, they're fantastic. Alright, once our Polish sausage is a little more cooked, we're going to add in a whole bunch of sauerkraut. I love sauerkraut, it's fantastic. The more the merrier, I always say. Look at how good those caramelized onions are. Oh, they would have been better with some beer. Should have done that. Well, hindsight. Once all ingredients are nice and cooked, we're going to assemble. Really the hardest part of this is getting your dough right. But if you just want to have a nice simple meal, just eschew the dough. You don't need it. But this, gives you that fantastic little feel of having a Polish taco. With some onions, some bacon. Oh, I forgot the bacon. There it is. And some mustard. Don't forget the mustard. Very important. Yes. Is it sloppy? Yes. Is it delicious? Also yes. See, Polish tacos. Isn't that an absolutely fantastic dish for St. Patty's Day? I think so. In honour of St. Patrick's Day, I'd like to sing a little ditty called The Scotsman's Kilt. It has nothing to do with St. Patrick's Day, but it's a fantastic romp, and it's a lot of fun. A Scotsman clad in kilt left the barn evening fair. None could tell by how he walked, he drunk more than his share. He fumbled round until he could no longer keep his feet, and he stumbled off into the grass to sleep beside the street. Ring-ding-diddle-hi-dee-o, ring-di-diddly-i-o. He stumbled off into the grass to sleep beside the street. About that time 2 young and lovely girls just happened by. One says to the other with a twinkle in her eye, "Oh, see yon sleeping Scotsman, so strong and handsome built. I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath their kilt. Ring-ding-diddle-hi-dee-o, ring-di-diddly-i-o. I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath their kilt." They crept upon that sleeping Scotsman quite as could be. They lifted up his kilt about an inch so they could see, and there behold for them to view beneath his Scottish skirt was nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. Ring-ding-diddle-hi-dee-o, ring-di-diddly-i-o. Was nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. They marvelled for a moment, then one said, "We must be gone. Let's leave a present for our friend before we move along." As a gift they left a blue silk ribbon tied into a bow. Around the banister the Scots kilt they lit and show. A ring ding diddle hi oh, ring di diddle yo. Around the banister the Scots kilt they lit and show. The Scotsman walked an edge's call and stumbled toward a tree. Behind a bush he lifts his kilt and gawks at what he sees. And in a startled voice he says to what's before his eyes, "Och, lad, I don't know where you been, but I see you won first prize. Ring ding diddly lidy oh, ring di diddly yo. Och, lad, I don't know where you been, but I see you won first prize." Oh, and a great song. Cilantro and happy St. Patrick's Day to all my Irish fans out there. Hope you enjoyed the recipe, and I hope you have a fantastic and safe holiday. Oh, you came up with something good when you made Guinness, didn't you? I don't need to eat for the rest of the day.